leaders that lead us by example as well. So thank you. Well, we're going to move on to the next to our next speaker. Those of you that come early, are you enjoying this?
Yes, sir.
Are you getting a lot of information? I know that others will come in the afternoon, but they would have missed this morning session. So thank God. I hope they get here because we're still going to have a question and answer session. But I want to speak about our next speaker, one of the elders of this fellowship, Dr. Olatidoye, he was the vice president of this local chapter at one time, and he has gone on to serve the region and now the national board of ACF. I thank God for his humility. What you will not know about him is that he serves the national board, and what I hear is when he speaks, others will listen because he has a lot of information, he has a lot of wisdom. We just thank God for Dr. Olatidoye. They support this local fellowship a lot, and he is filled up with wisdom. I still remember my brother Israel again when this man spoke at the regional meeting last time. I said to Brother Israel, who was sitting next to me, and said he's from Atlanta. But Israel wanted to make him he's a national board member, so he belongs to all the chapters. But I said he's a local. He's local to Atlanta. See, he always has a way to deflect everything, but that's fine. We thank God. Dr. Olatidoye, we appreciate you. So let's give a round of applause. I keep forgetting that you guys are.
It's a different realm in Atlanta. Well, good morning, brethren.
Good morning, Sam.
Always an honor and privilege to share with us. And I've been blessed this morning. I wish there were more people here. Actually, as it will happen, hopefully in future, we would have some of the neighboring chapters at our subsequent summits like this, because I think this is a rich opportunity to further what we are planning to do as a fellowship. And I feel that the kind of things I've listened to this morning already, everybody in ACF needs to be part of sharing or listening to this kind of thing.
We accepted the invitation to make them in Augusta.
You did? Yeah, but I think we can plan it out for the future, but because that's part of the direction the organization is going. I mean, this is rich stuff that I think, as a leader, if you don't have your home together, your altar together, your commitment together, really, you can't lead anything. So I've really been blessed. I just want to share with us a few things. Please let me know when I have 5 minutes left. But I just want to share with us a few things about our organization. Many of you are familiar with this, but I think reinforcement is a key in terms of vision and mission. We have to continually remind ourselves of who we are, where we're going, and our ultimate goal. And also, I'll share with us a few things that are coming up, or some of the ideas that we want to project as an organization in the few years to come. So what my president has asked me to share is staying focused on ACF mission and vision and upcoming changes. And focus is very important for us as Christians or as an organization. When you're not focused, chances are you may be diverting your energy in the wrong places. Even though you are doing good, but when you divert your energy in the wrong places, you may not accomplish the goal. And in fact, it gets to a point where what he was referring to, I think at the national conference, there was a concept that God gave me to share during our devotion there, and it was about how being out of sync or out of focus with the agenda of the organization can actually become sinful. You know, when you are under authority, being under authority means submitting to something. So when I'm in ACF, I am under authority in ACF. I am under the authority of my leaders and executives, but I am also under the authority of the banner of ACF, the bylaws, the constitution of the chapter. So when I'm under that authority, it behoves me to comply. So when the constitution of the organization says, go on mission, and at that point, that's when I want to do 1 hour of fasting and praying. That's a problem. It doesn't mean that my fasting and praying or my Bible study at that time is not a good thing to do, but not all good things are authorized, because there's a season for everything. So being under authority as leaders involves yielding to the agreed upon authority, whether it be our leader, whether it be the constitution that we submit to, whether it be our bylaws. Otherwise, we will be like the children of Eli. Remember Nadab and Abihu? They offered incense before the Lord. But what they did was they violated the Lord's pleasure and they got killed. Right? But what was wrong with offering incense? They were offering incense, but that wasn't authorized for them to do. They only went with their own zeal and zest, but they didn't go with order. And so that's why we must know what the vision and mission says, and then we must know what the bylaw says, and we must stick to it, so long as we are under the shelter of ACF. Now, when you are in your church, or when you are in another organization, you can fulfill what the order says there. But so long as you submit yourself under a bylaw or constitution of an organization, then you are submitted to the mission and the vision of that organization. And so shall it be. Amen? Amen. So, ACF, you've seen this before. We are a great organization, but if we focus our energies on the resources, our energies and resources to realize the goal and mission that is set forth in this organization, then we can do exploits. The problem is, to know your mission and vision, you have a clear understanding of who you are as an organization. So we must know who we are, we must walk by who we are. We must not try to be something else. If we want to be something else, then let's go under that organization. But so long as we want to be ACF, we want to be effective by following the rules. So if we have a concerted effort, that means we all together say we want to accomplish something, and we all focus our energies in that direction, we are more likely to succeed. So I like to rehash certain things because I think they are critical to staying focused. We are a non-denominational parachurch organization. That means we are a Christian faith-based organization that focuses on, we do social welfare, we do evangelism, but we are not a church. Now, we are registered as a church for certain purposes, for legal purposes, but we are not a church in the traditional sense. It is important that we keep that in our minds so that we don't go astray trying to be who we are not. And we have 5 regions in the ACF. I think all our leaders should know those kind of things. They're important. Absolutely. Our ACF vision statement should be written on the tablets of our heart. Very important. And this chapter, I am grateful for our leadership and our secretary. They rehash it every time so that we can all know it. The motto of ACF, all our leaders should know it. Building bridges. That's the motto of ACF. And what bridges are we building? The first bridge is connecting man to God, evangelism. That's what we first are about. The next, family, unity and functionality, because without the family we can do things. And that's why it's kind of interesting. Obviously, our president has been reading the rules. He put the family first this morning, because that's one of our building bridges. Facilitating understanding and cooperation. That's part of who we are, amongst people, groups, and different organizations that have similar agenda with us. And of course, we want to connect to the next generation. So those are the tenets of ACF, but we are building bridges. That's our motto. One thing also that has been rehashed many times that we always need to understand is that ACF, the foundation, is at the local chapter. And our president alluded to that this morning. Everything that makes ACF up starts from the grassroots, which is the local chapter. There is no region, there is no national without the local chapter. So the strength of our organization belongs to the local chapter. The local sends representatives to the region, and the region sends representatives to the national. That's why we are strong. You can't say this very well, but I like our leaders to know our operational structure as well. We have our national board. We have, within the national board, we have executives, we have a treasurer, president, secretary, and then we have directorates. The directorates, there are several of them. We have capacity building, which I lead currently. We have administration and management. We have legal. We have finance. So we have a director that deals with the legacy, one that deals with the family, reconnecting with the continent is the other directorate. So we have different arms of the organization that structure so that we can be effective. Within the executive, we have what they call currently we have the executive committee, and we've had it for a few years. I serve on that as well, but basically it's to help the elected executives in fulfilling their roles. And then, of course, we have our regional presidents that head each region, but they are part of the national board. And of course, the local, on the extreme here, we have the local chapter and the president of the local chapter who liaises with the board. It's important to know the type of conferences we have as leaders, because you hear of all these conferences each time, but they are a way of uniting us as a body. So we have a regional conference, even numbered years. We have a national conference. Another one is coming up this July. We have National Leadership Conference, which we had last year in even numbered years. And of course, marriage enrichment. We always have it in Valentine's Day weekend. I'm rehashing this for a purpose. Goals and missions of the organization. Establish and maintain positive, lasting, and effective relationships with like-minded people and groups from diverse walks of life and cultures worldwide for the purpose of impacting Africa. So everything we're doing, we want to impact Africa. We build and preserve a stable, functional, and harmonious community that effectively addresses the spiritual, listen to this, spiritual, physical, social, and emotional needs, recognizing the diversity of its members. So, much as we do Bible study, you will notice that we do health issues to address our physical. Social issues we address in ACF. And of course, emotional needs are met. So the 4 core areas of ACF: building the family, passing the legacy, building bridges, reconnecting with Africa. I put this in a different color because for me, Africa is our Jerusalem. I've said that many times. For me, I see Africa as my Jerusalem. There's a reason we are from there, and so God has a purpose for making us from there. We have to reconnect somehow. So we support missionary activities in Africa. We promote economic investments in Africa. Now, many times, I've been at a conference before, a national conference, where some things were being discussed by men of God. And I walked in the hallway and someone called me and said, where is the Holy Spirit in all of this? And I was challenged, I was like, and this was a leader by any right, or maybe an elder in ACF, that challenged me and said, where is the Holy Spirit in all of this? Well, the Holy Spirit is concerned about missionary activity in Africa. The Holy Spirit is concerned about economic investments in Africa as well. The reason is, if we do not invest in Africa, it's not going to change. Where you put your money, your mouth is right, your heart is there. So if you don't put your money in Africa, I'm not saying to make careless investments, but we have to be strategic. But investing in Africa is part of our calling. You can wait for the white man to invest in Africa, but when we do it with commitment, that's part of our role. As I said, that's when we can empower the people of Africa. So mobilize relief efforts in Africa, we do that. We did that for Ebola. We enhance the health and social well-being of peoples in Africa. I'm preaching to the choir. Educate ACF members on current issues and needs of Africa. Sometimes we don't do this very well. There are certain aspects of our calling that we're champions at, but we need to become champions at all of them. And so educating ourselves on current issues and needs in Africa is important. When we know what's prevailing in Africa, that's when we know how to pray for Africa. That's when we know the priorities of what we're doing. Recognize and promote positive African culture, and we do that. Now, just in the next few minutes, I'm going to share some of the directions we're going as a fellowship. So when we had our leadership summit last year, we called it Cornerstones for Lasting Impact. And cornerstones, we felt that every board comes and they leave. Every board comes and they leave. But what sustains an organization is when you build lasting cornerstones. When you have cornerstones and you build a house upon it, our Christ is our cornerstone, right? And everything you build on your cornerstone cannot be shaken. So as an organization, we thought we need to start building cornerstones as ACF, so that once we have cornerstones in place, whoever comes to lead the organization in future, they will only have those cornerstones as anchor so that they can stay on focus. So we thought to make our cornerstones last, we need organizational synergy through alignment. We felt we needed to align ourselves. Yes, we are all independent chapters that have agreed voluntarily to work together. But if we don't have a structure in place that brings us together, we will not be effective. So we came up with various areas of alignment as an organization. And actually, a lot of these areas were developed by the body, the ACF. In 2012, we had a leadership summit, one of the largest at that time, and we had several people, young professionals, young adults attended. We spent about 3 days in a hotel brainstorming, and it was every brainstorming that came up with ideas of what we need to do. And so last year, the capacity building team started working on this, and some of it resulted in concept of alignment. And of course, it so happens that's what the National Board felt strongly about as well. So one of the areas of alignment we thought, adoption of chapter bylaw template. In 2012, we voted on adopting a template, but we never implemented it. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that the National Board is going to impose a template on everybody. The idea is the basic minimum standards on our templates or bylaw to be uniform. That helps us to become one organization, so that ACF in California and ACF in Atlanta are reflecting the same organization, and that's strength. Otherwise, when you're not on the same plane, there is no strength. In fact, if you look at the most successful organizations, is it the Red Cross? If you go to Africa or go to Egypt or anywhere, the Red Cross has similar stance and tenets. They perform the same role because they have templates that everybody follows. That's what creates strength. So, uniform election timetable. Well, the idea of this is to make sure that we have people who are trained in position. So that if we do our elections about the same time across the organization, that means that the leadership summit or the leadership training sessions that we shall be having in the future, we can train all the new leaders at the same time. As it is currently, everybody has elections all over the place. And most of the time when they come to leadership summit, it's at the end of their term. So you're not really effectively training people. Regularizing legal status in each state. So we're proposing that every ACF chapter every ACF chapter should be incorporated. Otherwise, you really don't exist legally. Why should we run an organization without existing legally? So we incorporate every chapter, and within 60 days of your incorporation, the chapter will apply for a 501c3 status with the IRS. Once that's granted, within 180 days, we want them to now apply for state tax exempt status. These are all beneficial. When you hold your conference in a hotel, you get discount, or you don't have to pay taxes on certain things. Leadership summit versus leadership training skills. That's partly why we want to have a uniform election timetable so that all our leaders can go through operational training skills. Now, there are two types of leadership training we want to start. The idea is our leadership summit that we do every 2 years, rather than be the only leadership training we are having, that summit will be a strategic initiative session, policy making session for all leaders. And we expect at least the president, the treasurer, and secretary, or as many as the chapter can sponsor to attend that. Whereas the leadership skills training session will be an operational training of how do we act as treasurer. What is my role as a treasurer? What is my role as a financial secretary? What is my role as a Bible study leader? Those kind of things. And that's what we will do more on the local level. That means you can have a zonal level where you do that, or you can do in your region. So Augusta, Macon, and Atlanta, this type of thing we're doing today will be a one-day intensive session. Atlanta is one of the models for this thing actually. So the idea is next time we're doing this, we will have those local chapters that are close, they will have the same thing. In Jackson, they will do the same thing with the ones that are close. So everybody will be equipped to be effective, so that Brother Jegede will have some peace. Areas of alignment. Some of the other things that are important is we want to have minimum expected financial documentation and reporting standards. What does that mean? Any effective organization that people contribute to, you expect some kind of accountability. So we want to train ourselves to be able to do that. And we have experts in those areas. So when you are appointed to that role, even if it's not your field, we can train you. So we expect that by end of January, there should be an operating budget for each chapter. By end of January, the giving or the donation report should be sent letters for IRS to everybody that donates. By April 1, you should be able to present your end of year statement, financial statement. By say June, end of June, June 30, you should be able to send your financial statement to the region and to the national, so that we can be an effective organization. Uniform programming to reinforce core objectives of ACF. What does that mean? Our programming should be local, because the flavors that we all bring is what makes us a wonderful organization. But periodically, maybe the national board will say, we want to focus on this area of our core areas for the month of February. So across the nation, we can all decide to tailor our program towards that thing. But for the most part, our programming should stay the local, but let's make sure our programming is relevant to the core mission and vision of the organization. If your programming is not relevant, it's like the string fire that Neba and Abiyu are offering. Because really, to be subjected to or submissive to an organization and authority, we must go along with what the tenets say. ACF Missions Council, this was inaugurated recently. Brother Linus Ojukwu is the coordinator or head of that team. It encompasses all the Missions Council for all the regions of ACF so that we can exchange ideas, share resources, and become more effective. And all the missions leaders from all the different regions are now working together. They will come up with the concepts of where we are going mission-wise, and they will share resources. So that a young adult from Atlanta or from South region can say, I want to go on mission trip with the East region, and it doesn't feel strange because it's part of the same team. Leadership engagement at all levels. Our young adults, our young professionals, past, present, we want to keep everybody engaged. Because you served in the past doesn't mean that you cannot benefit the organization. So we want to engage everybody in decision making and in the operations of this organization. But very especially our young adults and young professionals. They are not the future, they are the present. We all know that. So one of our striving is to start positioning ourselves as an organization where they become part and parcel and they find this organization relevant. Growth and development, well, of course, new chapters. Funding will be available, encouragement will be available. Campus engagement, we began on the campus, we want to go back there so that we can start becoming effective on the colleges again. Mobilizing Generation Next, I think I alluded to that already. We want to start getting them engaged in ACF again and make them the present and the future. And then, of course, Executive Director and Secretariat. That is a very important area we are going. We feel that to become where we are going in the future, to be the organization of that vision that is striving, we need an Executive Director. I will not speak too much about that because I know there's someone here that is going to enlighten us more about that later on. These are a couple of quotes from a Chinese philosopher. Success does not depend on multiplicity of activities. It is decided by intentionality and impact. So it's not how many activities you do. In fact, as you realize the Lord's direction and leading, your actions become less. The second thing from this Chinese philosopher, the ability of an organization to achieve its goals depends on alignment of its members and the synergy of their efforts and resources. So when everything is geared in the same direction and we're not wasting time doing things that are irrelevant to the vision and mission, when our programming is focused on the same accomplishments, then we will hit the mark. By the way, it's not a Chinese professor. One team, ACF. Amen? Amen? Thank you.